Six Realms of Samsara explained. Buddhism wisdom on rebirth and karma. Buddhist teachings. Have you ever wondered where your actions might lead you in the future? What if I told you that our actions today could influence which realm of existence we are born into? It might sound a bit mysterious, but this is a core teaching in Buddhism, known as samsara, or the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. In Buddhism, samsara is not just a distant concept, it's the very nature of existence for all beings. It's a never-ending cycle, one where we are constantly moving from life to death, only to be born again in a new form, based on the karma we've accumulated. Karma, in its simplest form, is the law of cause and effect. Every action we take, whether good or bad, leaves an imprint on our future. And depending on these actions, we can be reborn into different realms, each with its own unique qualities and sufferings. So, what exactly are these realms, and how does karma affect where we end up? That's what we'll be diving into in this video. We're going to explore the 6 realms of samsara, the gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. Each realm has its own characteristics, suffering, and lessons. Some realms are filled with pleasure and divine power, while others are steeped in pain, hunger, and torment. But here's the most important part: our actions in this life play a direct role in determining which realm we'll be born into next. By understanding these realms, we can better understand how to live more mindfully and make choices that align with our higher purpose, rather than being trapped in cycles of suffering. In this video, we'll break down each of the 6 realms of samsara, exploring their unique characteristics, how actions lead to rebirth in each one, and what we can learn from them. So, stick with me, as we uncover the deeper truths behind these realms and discover how our actions today shape the lives we lead tomorrow. Understanding samsara. In order to understand the 6 realms of samsara, we first need to grasp the concept of samsara itself. Samsara is essentially the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that every being is caught in, no matter who or what they are. Whether you're a human, an animal, or even a god, we're all bound by this endless cycle. It's a fundamental teaching in Buddhism that life is not a linear journey with a clear beginning and end. Instead, it's an ongoing process, one where we are continuously born into new forms, live, die, and are reborn, over and over again. But why are we stuck in this cycle? What causes this endless wheel to keep turning? The answer lies in karma. Karma is the law of cause and effect. Every action we take, every word we speak, and every thought we have creates an imprint. This imprint doesn't just disappear after we've acted or spoken. It has consequences. The things we do today will shape our experiences tomorrow, next year, and in future lives. If we act with kindness, compassion, and wisdom, we create positive karma, leading to positive experiences in our future lives. On the other hand, if we act out of anger, greed, and ignorance, we create negative karma, which will lead to suffering in the future. Karma isn't just about the actions themselves, it's also about the intention behind those actions. In Buddhism, it's not enough just to do good things on the outside, the heart and mind must be pure as well. For example, you can give to charity, but if you're doing it to gain admiration or for selfish reasons, the karma you create might not be as beneficial as if you were acting out of genuine love and compassion. It's this connection between our intentions, actions, and their consequences that ultimately determines the course of our lives and the lives we are reborn into. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The reason we remain trapped in the cycle of samsara isn't just because of our actions and karma. It's because of something even deeper, attachment. Attachment is at the heart of suffering in samsara. Think about it, whenever we become attached to something, whether it's a person, an object, a place, or even an idea, we create a bond that keeps us tethered to the cycle. This attachment is driven by desire, the constant wanting of things to be a certain way, the belief that happiness can be found in external things. But the truth is, everything in this world is impermanent. People change, things break, and time moves on. When we become attached, we suffer because we're trying to hold on to something that is bound to change or disappear. Attachment keeps us stuck in this cycle, reinforcing the endless loop of birth, death, and rebirth. Desire and attachment cloud our ability to see things as they truly are. Instead of seeing life as a flow of experiences, we get attached to particular outcomes, to the idea that we can control our reality. This is where the suffering comes in. The more we desire, the more we grasp at things, the more we reinforce our attachment, and the more we stay caught in samsara. In Buddhism, this is why one of the ultimate goals is to let go of attachment and desire, to break free from the cycle of samsara and find liberation, or nirvana. By understanding samsara, karma, and attachment, we can begin to see how deeply our actions and mindset shape our experience of life. If we can learn to act with kindness, mindfulness, and compassion, and if we can release our attachments to the things that cause suffering, we start to move toward breaking free from the cycle and step closer to true peace. The Six Realms of Samsara. Realm of the Gods, Devas. Now that we have a solid understanding of samsara, karma, and attachment, let's dive deeper into the 6 realms of samsara. These realms represent the different states of existence that beings can be born into, and each one has its own unique characteristics, suffering, and lessons. Let's start with the realm of the gods. The realm of the gods, also known as the Devas, is often considered the highest of all the realms. It's a realm filled with luxury, pleasure, and divine powers. The gods in this realm experience immense happiness, beauty, and wealth beyond anything we can imagine. They live in a world where their needs are met without effort, where they are surrounded by everything they desire, and they are often thought to possess great wisdom and spiritual insight. It sounds like a paradise, doesn't it? And for all intents and purposes, it is, at least on the surface. But here's the catch: despite all of this happiness and divine pleasure, the gods are not free from suffering. Their lives, no matter how perfect they seem, are still bound by the same fundamental truths of samsara, impermanence and attachment. You see, the gods may live in a world of pure bliss, but their happiness is fleeting. It's temporary. Nothing lasts forever, and neither do the pleasures in the realm of the gods. This is a major point that Buddhists emphasize. The gods in this realm often experience suffering because of their attachment to their divine powers and their belief that their happiness will last forever. They become proud, complacent, and attached to the idea that they are somehow superior to other beings. And when their power fades, when their pleasure subsides, they experience the shock and pain of losing what they thought would last forever. So, how does one end up in the realm of the gods? Rebirth in this realm is the result of accumulating positive karma in previous lives. This means that if you've lived a life full of good deeds, generosity, and spiritual practice, you are more likely to be reborn in the realm of the gods. Positive karma from acts like charity, kindness, and selfless actions can elevate your consciousness and bring you closer to this realm. Essentially, if you've cultivated virtues and wisdom in your past lives, you're granted a life in this divine realm. However, there's a very important lesson here. Despite the incredible privileges that come with being a god, there's still suffering. The gods in this realm are not immune to the nature of samsara. They experience the suffering of attachment, the suffering of pride, and the suffering of impermanence. The happiness they feel is always temporary, and when it fades, they face the painful realization that they are not free from suffering after all. This is a critical lesson in Buddhism. Even the most fortunate beings in samsara are not free from suffering. Happiness in the realm of the gods, as perfect as it may seem, is fleeting and illusory. The message here is profound. No matter how much pleasure or power we may attain, whether in this life or in future lives, it's important to recognize that all things are impermanent. Attachment to even the most divine experiences can cause us to suffer when they inevitably fade. This is a crucial understanding that can help us remain humble and mindful, no matter how fortunate we may seem. It's a reminder that we must not become attached to the fleeting joys of this world, but rather seek a deeper, more lasting peace, one that transcends the temporary pleasures of any realm, even the realm of the gods. Realm of the Demigods, Asuras. Let's now turn our attention to the realm of the demigods, also known as the Asuras. Unlike the realm of the gods, where pleasure and luxury dominate, the realm of the demigods is one marked by conflict, envy, and intense competition. The demigods in this realm possess great powers, far more than humans or animals, but they are far from content. While they have the strength and abilities to achieve almost anything, they are constantly driven by a sense of rivalry, a need to outdo others, and the desire for dominance. They live in a world where success and power are constantly being fought for, and peace is elusive. At first glance, it might seem like the demigods are living a life of greatness. After all, they have the power to shape their surroundings, command forces that humans can only dream of, and hold positions of immense authority. However, the one thing they lack in this realm is contentment. They are trapped in a never-ending cycle of competition, always comparing themselves to others, always wanting more, and always striving to be superior. This constant struggle for power and recognition leaves them in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. Even when they win, it's not enough. They feel envy toward those more powerful than themselves, and when they defeat someone, they are filled not with joy, but with the desire to defeat yet another rival. There's no peace for the demigods because their minds are constantly clouded by the need to be number one, to be better than everyone else. It's a life where nothing ever feels truly fulfilling, no matter how much power or control they acquire. So, how does one end up in the realm of the demigods? Rebirth in this realm is the result of a mixture of good karma but also strong desires and envy. The demigods have accumulated positive karma in past lives, perhaps through good actions or spiritual practices, but they also carry with them intense desires and attachments that stem from envy, anger, and the craving for dominance. This combination of good and bad karma results in a life that's filled with both great abilities and immense inner turmoil. The demigods are caught in a paradox. Their good deeds and virtues have granted them incredible power, but their negative emotions, especially envy, prevent them from experiencing true happiness. The suffering in this realm is rooted in the constant cycle of competition and the insatiable desire for power. No matter how many victories they achieve or how many rivals they defeat, the demigods are never truly satisfied. They are always looking for the next conquest, the next way to assert their dominance, and they never experience the peace that comes from true contentment. The rivalry they face with others becomes their greatest source of suffering. It's a type of suffering that's born from an inability to let go of the need for validation, for control, for superiority. The key message of the realm of the demigods is clear: striving for power and control often leads to inner turmoil and dissatisfaction. The demigods are living proof that power, while it may offer temporary satisfaction, cannot bring true peace. The constant need to be better than others, to win at all costs, keeps them trapped in a cycle of frustration and unfulfilled desires. This teaches us that seeking power or control as an end goal often leads to suffering. Instead, true peace and happiness come from letting go of the need to compare ourselves to others, from recognizing that our worth is not defined by our status or power, and from cultivating contentment with what we have. In the end, the realm of the demigods is a reminder that while ambition and strength are valuable, they should not come at the cost of inner peace and harmony. If we are constantly striving to be better than others, to win at all costs, we will only find ourselves caught in a cycle of endless dissatisfaction. The true path to peace is not in competition, but in understanding, compassion, and acceptance of ourselves and others as they are. Realm of humans, humans. Now, let's turn our focus to the realm of humans. Out of all the realms, the human realm is truly unique because it offers both the joys and the challenges that create the perfect environment for spiritual growth and transformation. It is a realm of balance, a mixture of pleasure and pain, gain and loss. As humans, we experience the full range of emotions and experiences, moments of bliss and beauty, but also hardship, suffering, and loss. What makes the human realm so special, though, is that it's here where we have the potential to transcend suffering, to find wisdom, and to achieve liberation. Human life is not all one thing or another. We are constantly moving between extremes, happiness and sorrow, health and illness, birth and death. These contrasts are not simply random, they are the very nature of our existence, and they are essential to our spiritual development. While life as a human can be difficult and filled with obstacles, it's also in this realm that we have the clearest path to enlightenment. Why? Because we have the awareness to recognize suffering and the capacity to change. Unlike the gods, who are caught in the illusion of perfection, or the demigods, who are consumed by rivalry and competition, humans have the opportunity to develop self-awareness. We can reflect on our actions, understand our desires, and cultivate wisdom. This awareness gives us the potential to practice compassion, develop our minds, and eventually liberate ourselves from the cycle of samsara. So, how does one end up in the human realm? Rebirth in this realm comes as a result of a balance of good and bad karma. Humans are not born into this realm because they are perfect or because they've accumulated only good karma, but because they've had enough positive actions, along with some negative karma, to find themselves here. The human realm, unlike the realms of gods or demigods, is not one of total ease or total suffering. It's a place where the soul can reflect, grow, and learn. If a being has accumulated too much good karma, they might be reborn in a realm that's too comfortable, like the gods, where there's little opportunity for growth or spiritual practice. On the other hand, if a being has accumulated mostly negative karma, they may end up in a realm of intense suffering. But humans have just the right mix. In this realm, the conditions are neither too perfect to make spiritual practice unnecessary, nor too overwhelming to prevent it. This balance is what gives humans their unique opportunity for spiritual practice. In the human realm, suffering is a constant, but so is the possibility for liberation. We face the pain of aging, illness, and death, the inevitable aspects of our existence. We see loved ones suffer, and we know that our time in this world is limited. These realities can be painful, but they also give us the opportunity to practice wisdom. It is through recognizing the impermanence of life, accepting that suffering is a part of our human condition, that we can begin to transcend it. This is where Buddhist teachings come into play. We learn that suffering is not something to avoid or fear, but something to understand and overcome. Through mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we can transform our suffering into opportunities for growth and spiritual liberation. Suffering in the human realm is unavoidable. Whether it's the physical pain of illness, the emotional suffering of loss, or the mental anguish of fear and confusion, humans face the full spectrum of life's challenges. However, the suffering we experience here is not just an obstacle, it's a teacher. It's through our suffering that we learn the most important lessons about ourselves, about life, and about our connection to others. The Buddha's teachings guide us through this suffering. He taught that by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, by cultivating right mindfulness, right speech, right action, and so on, we can find freedom from suffering and break the cycle of samsara. The message of the human realm is powerful. The human realm is special because it's the best opportunity for spiritual practice and liberation. Unlike the gods, whose existence is filled with distractions and pride, or the demigods, whose life is consumed by competition, humans are presented with the perfect balance of pleasure and pain that fosters spiritual growth. We have the capacity to reflect, to choose our actions, and to change our minds. While human life is undeniably marked by suffering, it's also filled with the potential for awakening. Every moment offers an opportunity to practice compassion, to seek wisdom, and to move closer to liberation. In the human realm, we are not defined by our suffering, but by how we respond to it. It's the one realm where we can truly choose to walk the path of wisdom, to transform our lives, and ultimately to transcend the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This is why human existence is considered the most precious, because in this realm, we have the greatest opportunity to awaken, to free ourselves from samsara, and to experience true peace. Realm of Animals, Turiyakas. Now, let's move on to the realm of animals, also known as the Turiyakas. This is a realm dominated by basic instincts, survival, reproduction, and the constant need to satisfy physical needs. Unlike the human realm, where we can reflect on our actions and develop spiritually, the animal realm is a place where beings are primarily driven by their instincts and the most basic desires. Animals are not concerned with abstract concepts like enlightenment or liberation. Their lives are centered on the here and now, primarily focused on securing food, shelter, and avoiding danger. They are caught in the cycle of survival, unable to break free from the continuous struggle for their basic needs. What's striking about the animal realm is that it's a world defined by ignorance. Animals are not aware of their deeper existence, they don't possess the kind of self-reflection that humans do, and they certainly don't have the opportunity to develop wisdom or compassion. They live by instinct, responding to the world around them without the ability to contemplate the nature of their suffering or the possibility of liberation. In the animal realm, there is little room for growth or spiritual development because the beings here are so absorbed in the struggle for survival. This constant cycle of basic instinctual needs creates a life of endless suffering, as animals are vulnerable to predators, disease, and harsh environmental conditions, often with no ability to understand or mitigate their pain. Fear, pain, and vulnerability are constant companions, and without the wisdom to transcend these conditions, animals are trapped in a realm that offers no possibility of escape. Rebirth in the animal realm comes as the result of negative karma. More specifically, beings are reborn here due to ignorance and a lack of compassion in past lives. In Buddhist teachings, ignorance is seen as one of the root causes of suffering. It's the inability to see things as they truly are, to understand the interconnectedness of all life, and to cultivate wisdom. When we act out of ignorance, when we fail to consider the consequences of our actions and the suffering of others, we create negative karma. This negative karma leads to rebirth in a realm where spiritual growth is practically impossible. If we were excessively driven by selfishness, greed, or cruelty in past lives, we may find ourselves reborn in the animal realm, where our existence is marked by suffering and an inability to transcend it. The suffering in the animal realm is incredibly intense. Animals constantly face fear, pain, and vulnerability. They live in a world where they are either hunting or being hunted, where their very existence is at risk at every moment. Whether it's a wild animal fearing predators or a domesticated animal enduring mistreatment at the hands of humans, the pain and suffering experienced in this realm are immense. Even more, animals are often unaware of the root causes of their suffering and lack the ability to seek out solutions. They can't practice mindfulness, meditation, or wisdom. They simply endure their circumstances, unable to rise above the fear or pain that defines their existence. This is where the lesson lies for us as humans. The animal realm shows us the consequences of ignorance and selfishness. When we act out of ignorance, when we fail to cultivate compassion, we are trapped in a cycle of suffering and survival. We may not end up in an animal body, but we can find ourselves living lives that are driven solely by our instincts, by the need to survive, to compete, and to satisfy our most immediate desires. This can lead to a life devoid of deeper meaning or spiritual growth. Just as animals are unable to transcend their suffering, we, too, can fall into patterns of behavior that keep us in cycles of selfishness and ignorance, limiting our ability to grow spiritually and experience true peace. The message of the animal realm is clear. Our actions driven by ignorance and selfishness can trap us in a realm of suffering and survival. This is a warning to us, reminding us that when we live with a narrow focus on our own needs, when we disregard the suffering of others and act out of ignorance, we are bound to face consequences. The animal realm shows us the consequences of living without awareness, without compassion, and without the ability to see beyond our own desires. It teaches us that ignorance doesn't just lead to personal suffering, it can lead to suffering on a much larger scale, trapping us in a cycle of endless need and pain. For humans, the lesson here is twofold. First, we must recognize that ignorance, selfishness, and a lack of compassion can prevent us from evolving spiritually. We may not be reborn as animals, but we can still live lives that are dominated by the same struggles they face, struggling to survive, struggling to satisfy our desires, struggling to find meaning beyond the superficial. Second, we must learn to cultivate compassion and wisdom, so we don't fall into the same trap. When we act with awareness, when we develop an understanding of the interconnectedness of all life, and when we choose to live with compassion, we break free from the cycle of ignorance that can lead to suffering. Ultimately, the animal realm serves as a reminder to us all: without wisdom and compassion, we remain caught in cycles of suffering and survival. It's a powerful call to take responsibility for our actions and to cultivate awareness, not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of all beings. Only through developing a deep understanding of our true nature can we transcend the ignorance that traps us in cycles of suffering, and only through compassion can we truly liberate ourselves from the suffering that comes from living without awareness. Realm of hungry ghosts, pretas. Let's move on to the next realm, the realm of hungry ghosts, also known as the pretas. Imagine beings that are constantly hungry, constantly thirsty, but no matter how much they consume, they can never satisfy their cravings. These beings are depicted with huge, bloated stomachs and tiny, shriveled mouths, so small that they can barely eat or drink. No matter how hard they try, they're never able to fulfill their basic desires for food or sustenance. This image is a powerful metaphor for the nature of their suffering, insatiable hunger and thirst, but with no way to quench it. This is a realm where craving dominates everything. Every action, every thought, and every experience is tied to the deep, unending desire for something that can never be attained. The karma that leads to rebirth in this realm is rooted in excessive attachment, greed, and desire in past lives. These beings, when alive, were driven by overwhelming wants, unable to control their cravings. Whether it was an addiction to material wealth, a relentless thirst for power, or an inability to feel satisfied with anything in life, these desires accumulated and, in turn, shaped their future existence. In Buddhism, excessive attachment and greed are seen as harmful forces that not only cause personal suffering but also leave us trapped in cycles of craving that we can never fully satisfy. As a result, when these beings are reborn as hungry ghosts, their life is defined by this constant, unresolved need. Their insatiable desires follow them into their next life, manifesting in this endless state of deprivation and frustration. The suffering in the realm of hungry ghosts is intense and unrelenting. These beings are trapped by their desires. No matter how much they reach for, they can never grasp it. Picture someone who is always yearning for something, but no matter how much they acquire, it's never enough. The more they consume, the emptier they feel, and the more frustrated they become. This suffering is not just about physical hunger and thirst, it is a deep, existential pain that comes from the inability to find peace or satisfaction. The craving itself becomes the source of torment, and because they cannot let go of their desires, they remain stuck in this perpetual state of yearning and dissatisfaction. It's like being on a never-ending search for fulfillment but never being able to reach it. The key takeaway from this realm is the powerful lesson about excessive desire and attachment. Excessive desire and attachment can lead to a life of unfulfilled cravings and suffering. The beings in the realm of hungry ghosts are a stark reminder that when we allow our desires to grow unchecked, when we become attached to things, whether they're material possessions, relationships, or even abstract concepts like power or success, we become trapped by them. We're constantly chasing after something that we believe will bring us happiness, but no matter how much we get, it's never enough. This leads to a life of frustration, dissatisfaction, and, ultimately, suffering. In our daily lives, we can relate to this in many ways. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to desire more success, more wealth, more recognition. But the more we chase these things, the more we realize that they don't necessarily lead to lasting happiness. We may find temporary pleasure, but the sense of fulfillment is always fleeting. The hungry ghost realm is a reflection of this cycle, where we allow ourselves to be consumed by desires that are never truly satisfied. Whether it's the next promotion at work, the latest gadget, or the pursuit of social status, we might feel a sense of craving, but once we get what we want, the desire simply moves on to the next thing. We are never truly content. The message from the realm of hungry ghosts is clear: it is our attachment to things, our unchecked desires, and our inability to let go of them that creates the suffering. The beings in this realm are stuck in a cycle of craving because they cannot break free from the hold that their desires have over them. The same can happen to us. When we become too attached to our desires, when we let them control our actions and thoughts, we are trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction and unfulfillment. The more we try to satisfy our cravings, the emptier we feel, because true contentment is not found in endless consumption or pursuit. To transcend this realm, the teachings of Buddhism encourage us to practice detachment and mindfulness. By becoming more aware of our desires and learning to let go of the attachments that bind us, we can break free from the cycle of craving that leads to suffering. The practice of cultivating contentment, appreciating what we have, and letting go of the need for more is essential for finding true peace and fulfillment. The beings in the realm of hungry ghosts are a powerful reminder that it's not the objects of our desire that cause suffering, but our attachment to them. If we learn to release these attachments and practice gratitude, we can free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving and find true happiness within. In a world where we're constantly bombarded by messages encouraging us to want more, the realm of hungry ghosts teaches us the dangers of giving in to these desires. The suffering of these beings is not just physical, it is an emotional and spiritual suffering that comes from the constant pursuit of something that is never quite within reach. It's a reminder that true happiness is not found in endless striving or accumulating more, but in cultivating contentment, compassion, and mindfulness in the present moment. Through these practices, we can transcend the suffering of desire and find peace in the fullness of our lives, just as the teachings of the Buddha suggest. Realm of Hell Beings, Naraka. Now, let's turn our attention to the final realm of samsara, the realm of hell beings, or Naraka. This is a realm that represents some of the most intense and unimaginable suffering that one can experience. Hell beings here are subjected to extreme torment, whether it's through unbearable heat or bone-chilling cold. The suffering they endure is not just physical, though it is certainly excruciating, but it also encompasses emotional and psychological anguish. The pain they experience in this realm is relentless and all-encompassing, without any hope of relief. Imagine being trapped in a place where every moment is defined by unimaginable agony, with no possibility of escape. This realm serves as a potent reminder of how the karma we accumulate can shape our fate, potentially leading to a life of endless torment. The karma that leads to rebirth in this realm is accumulated through particularly harmful and negative actions, acts of violence, cruelty, and extreme harm done to others. Whether it's through direct physical harm, verbal abuse, or more subtle forms of malice and intention, the actions that generate negative karma in this life can result in the soul being reborn into a realm of suffering like the hells. In the teachings of Buddhism, cruelty and violence are seen as actions that create deep negative karma because they inflict suffering on others, and this suffering tends to come back to the person who caused it. The law of karma is clear: when we intentionally cause harm, particularly with the intention to cause pain or destruction, we set the stage for suffering to be part of our future existence. The suffering in the realm of hell beings is unlike anything we can truly imagine. In this realm, beings endure physical pain that seems beyond measure, whether it's being tortured by extreme heat or suffering from cold so intense that it feels like your very bones are freezing. The beings here are caught in a state where their pain is constant, and there is no moment of respite. But the suffering isn't limited to just the body. There's also an emotional and psychological element to the torment. Feelings of deep regret, guilt, and helplessness amplify the physical pain, adding an extra layer of anguish. The idea behind this suffering is that it's not random, it's a direct consequence of the actions the beings took in their past lives. Their cruelty and harmful deeds have resulted in this fate, which is a manifestation of the suffering they caused others. The message from this realm is extremely powerful: our harmful actions and cruelty to others can trap us in a cycle of suffering and torment. The suffering in the hell realm is a direct result of the harm caused by violence, hatred, and malicious intent. In Buddhism, the teachings urge us to refrain from causing harm to others, not just for the sake of avoiding future suffering for ourselves, but because every harmful action we take ripples out into the world and causes pain. When we allow ourselves to act out of anger, hatred, or malice, we are not only inflicting harm on others but also planting the seeds for future torment for ourselves. The beings in the hell realms are trapped by the negative karma they have accumulated, and their suffering is a direct manifestation of the violence and cruelty they've enacted in previous lives. It serves as a cautionary tale for us all: our actions matter. What we do to others, how we treat them, and the intentions we harbor can shape the course of our lives, and the lives of others, in ways we may not fully comprehend. But here's the key: this realm, like all the others, is not eternal. Just as the gods' lives are fleeting, so too are the suffering of the hell beings temporary. There is an end to the cycle, though the torment they face may seem endless. The teachings of Buddhism offer a path toward breaking free from such suffering. By practicing compassion, by refraining from causing harm, and by cultivating virtues like kindness and understanding, we can change our karmic trajectory. The way we live today, the actions we take, and the intentions we set can either steer us toward peace and liberation, or they can lead us down a path of torment. The beings in the hell realms are not there because they were doomed, they are there because of the karmic actions they performed. And just as bad karma can lead to suffering, good karma, generated through actions rooted in compassion, kindness, and wisdom, can lead to a more peaceful and liberated future. In our everyday lives, we often encounter situations where we feel anger or frustration, or we're tempted to retaliate against someone who has wronged us. But this realm of suffering shows us the true consequences of harmful actions. Actions driven by hatred, greed, or cruelty don't just harm others, they have the power to trap us in our own torment. So the lesson here is clear: our harmful actions and cruelty to others can trap us in a cycle of suffering and torment. If we want to avoid such a fate, we must take responsibility for our actions. We must practice compassion, not only toward others but toward ourselves as well. By doing so, we can break free from the cycle of samsara and move toward liberation. The realm of hell beings is a vivid reminder that the actions we take have lasting consequences, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. The karma we create can either lead us toward peace and enlightenment, or it can entrap us in a never-ending cycle of suffering. How karma shapes our rebirth. Now, let's dive deeper into the concept of karma and how it shapes our rebirth in samsara. Karma, in its simplest form, refers to the actions we take, whether they are physical, verbal, or mental, and how those actions shape our future. Every choice we make, every word we speak, and every thought we entertain generates karma that affects not just our present life, but future ones as well. This is one of the central tenets of Buddhist philosophy. Our present circumstances are the result of past actions, and our current actions are shaping the future. It's like sowing seeds in the ground. The seeds you plant today will determine the fruits that you will reap tomorrow. And these seeds can either be seeds of peace and enlightenment or seeds of suffering and ignorance. But here's where it gets interesting: it's not just the action itself that matters, it's the intention behind the action. In Buddhism, the intention is the root of karma. If you perform a good deed, but your intention is driven by selfishness, pride, or the hope for recognition, the karma created by that action will not be as pure or positive as if the same deed were performed with a genuinely compassionate heart. The Buddha emphasized the importance of intention when he taught that karma is not just about what we do, but why we do it. If the motivation behind our actions is rooted in love, compassion, and kindness, then the karmic result will naturally lead to a more positive and beneficial outcome. Conversely, if the intention behind our actions is selfish, harmful, or rooted in negative emotions like greed, hatred, or jealousy, that too will determine the nature of the karma we create. So, understanding that karma is influenced by both action and intention, we can begin to see how our future rebirths are shaped by the choices we make today. If we lead our lives with kindness, compassion, and wisdom, we create positive karma that can lead to more favorable rebirths. On the other hand, if we act out of anger, ignorance, or self-centeredness, we create negative karma that may result in less fortunate circumstances, possibly even being born into one of the lower realms of samsara like the animal realm or the realm of hungry ghosts. The beings in these realms are trapped by their past negative actions, and their karma continues to influence their present suffering. Their rebirth in these realms wasn't a random event, it was the result of the negative actions they committed in the past. But here's the good news: karma is not a fixed, unchangeable law of fate. While we may be born into a particular realm based on the karma we've accumulated, that doesn't mean we are forever bound to remain there. In Buddhism, there is always the potential to change our karma. We can break the cycle of rebirth and suffering through the cultivation of wisdom, ethical conduct, and meditation. By living a life that is grounded in ethical behavior, following the principles of right speech, right action, right livelihood, and so on, we can begin to purify our karma. Through meditation, we can develop insight and mindfulness, which allow us to understand the nature of our desires and attachments, the very forces that bind us to samsara. And through wisdom, we can gain the realization that the self we cling to is an illusion, that everything is interconnected, and that true peace and freedom lie in letting go of attachment and ego. When we practice these virtues, we gradually weaken the hold of negative karma on our lives. We begin to transcend the cycle of samsara, and ultimately, through enlightenment, we can attain nirvana, the cessation of all suffering and the end of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This is the ultimate goal of Buddhist practice, to break free from samsara and achieve liberation. And the beauty of this teaching is that nirvana is not something far off or unattainable. It is available to each one of us in this very moment. Every good action, every positive thought, every compassionate intention is a step toward that ultimate freedom. So, in short, our karma shapes our rebirths by the actions we take, but more importantly, by the intentions behind those actions. Negative karma leads to suffering in lower realms, while positive karma paves the way for a more favorable rebirth and even liberation from the cycle of samsara. But no matter where we are right now, no matter the mistakes we may have made in the past, we always have the ability to change the course of our future. Through mindfulness, ethical conduct, and the wisdom of understanding the true nature of existence, we can break free from the cycle and attain the peace of nirvana. The path is not always easy, but it is always available to us, right here, right now, with every choice we make. Real-life application, understanding our actions. Now that we've explored the 6 realms of samsara and how karma shapes our rebirths, let's bring these teachings into our daily lives. One of the most profound aspects of Buddhist philosophy is how it encourages us to reflect on our actions and their consequences, not just in the next life, but in our current life as well. So, I want to take a moment here and invite you to reflect on your own life. Think about the choices you've made, the actions you've taken, the words you've spoken, and the thoughts you've entertained. How do you think they're shaping your experiences, not just right now, but also in the future? Are there moments where you've acted out of anger, greed, or selfishness? And how did that affect your relationships, your peace of mind, or your general outlook on life? On the flip side, have there been times when you acted out of compassion, generosity, or understanding? How did that make you feel? What kind of energy did you bring into the world in those moments? What impact did it have on those around you? Buddhism teaches that every single action, whether big or small, has a karmic consequence. The reality is, we can't escape this. Every action plants a seed, and over time, those seeds grow into experiences, sometimes experiences that bring joy and peace, and sometimes ones that bring pain and suffering. The beauty of this teaching is that we have the power, in every single moment, to choose what kind of seeds we want to plant. But it takes awareness. It takes mindfulness. And it requires us to live with intention. So, how can we start to incorporate mindfulness and ethical behavior into our daily lives to avoid creating negative karma and instead, create positive karma? First, let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, of observing our thoughts, actions, and reactions without judgment. It's about tuning into what's happening right now, without being carried away by our habitual thoughts or emotions. By practicing mindfulness, we become more aware of when we're acting out of anger, impatience, or greed, and when we're acting out of kindness, patience, and compassion. And when we become more aware, we can start making more conscious choices that align with our values and lead to positive karma. One way to bring mindfulness into your life is by starting with your breath. Every time you feel overwhelmed or caught up in a negative emotion, take a moment to pause and focus on your breathing. Simply breathe in and out, and notice the sensations of the breath as it enters and exits your body. This simple act can ground you in the present moment, helping you detach from the emotion that's driving your actions. From there, you can choose how to respond rather than react impulsively. Another powerful way to practice mindfulness is through reflection. Before you speak or act, ask yourself, is this action coming from a place of love, compassion, and wisdom? Or is it coming from a place of fear, ego, or attachment? When we take a moment to reflect on our intentions, we can steer our actions toward those that align with our highest good, and the good of those around us. Now, let's talk about ethical behavior. In Buddhism, ethical conduct is fundamental. The Buddha outlined a path of ethical behavior known as the 5 precepts, which include refraining from killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, and intoxication. By practicing these ethical guidelines, we avoid creating harmful karma and instead, create an environment of peace and harmony around us. But ethical behavior goes beyond just avoiding harm. It also involves actively cultivating kindness, generosity, and patience. It's about bringing positive energy into every interaction, whether that's through a kind word, a thoughtful gesture, or a moment of listening. If you want to begin incorporating more ethical behavior into your life, one great place to start is with your relationships. How do you treat the people around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, even strangers? Do you show them respect and kindness, or are there moments where you've acted out of frustration or judgment? Reflect on these interactions and ask yourself how you can bring more compassion into each one. Start small. Maybe it's offering a smile to someone who looks like they need it, or taking a moment to listen without interrupting when someone is speaking. These small actions have a big impact, not only on the people you interact with, but on your own inner peace as well. In addition to ethical conduct, one of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is meditation. Meditation helps us quiet the mind, cultivate inner peace, and gain insight into the true nature of our thoughts and emotions. By regularly meditating, we begin to break the cycle of reactivity and develop the clarity needed to make conscious, wise choices in our daily lives. Meditation also helps us let go of attachments to things, to people, to our own ego, and it is this detachment that ultimately frees us from the cycle of samsara. So, whether it's through mindfulness, ethical conduct, or meditation, the key to avoiding negative karma is awareness. When we are aware of our actions and the intention behind them, we can choose to act in ways that create positive karma and lead to a better, more fulfilling life. And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. Each day is a new opportunity to be more mindful, to act with compassion, and to create the kind of karma that leads to peace, joy, and ultimately, liberation. The more we practice these principles, the more we break free from the habitual patterns of suffering that trap us in samsara. We begin to experience the peace that comes with living a life of intention, wisdom, and love. And in this way, we transform not only our own lives but also the world around us. It's through these simple, everyday practices that we can begin to change the course of our karma and move toward liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. So, as we wrap up this exploration of the 6 realms of samsara, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've learned. We've discussed the 6 realms, each with its own characteristics, suffering, and how karma shapes our existence. From the blissful, yet fleeting, pleasure of the realm of the gods, to the intense suffering of hell beings, each realm represents a different experience of life based on our actions and intentions. We've seen how karma, our actions, thoughts, and desires, directly influences where we are reborn and the type of existence we will lead. And it's not just about the big, life-changing actions. Even the small, seemingly insignificant decisions we make each day are shaping our future and the future of those around us. Whether we find ourselves in the human realm with the potential for growth and spiritual practice, or in the animal or hungry ghost realms driven by ignorance and attachment, every moment is an opportunity to shift the course of our lives. By understanding the 6 realms of samsara, we realize that the actions we take today don't just determine where we'll end up in the next life, they shape the kind of life we lead right now. Our happiness, peace of mind, and suffering all arise from the choices we make. So, my final thought for you is this: we have the power to break free from the cycle of samsara. The way we live, the way we treat others, and the way we cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom can transform our present and our future. This journey isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making conscious choices every day to live in harmony with the world and our own true nature. If this video has resonated with you, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your own life and actions. What small changes can you make today to plant seeds of positive karma? How can you shift your mindset to one of greater awareness, compassion, and wisdom? Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from this message. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions about the 6 realms of samsara. What stood out to you? Or maybe you have your own experiences with karma you'd like to share. Drop a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we'll dive even deeper into Buddhist teachings and how they can help us navigate our lives with greater peace and understanding.